love this film. I totally got it. And for me, it's not about the sex. It's about the story. I have many, many friends around the world who are like this. I call them being bored. But they're very, very successful people, and, you know, as we call it, they just keep it on the down low. So I loved everything about this. I loved the performances. You guys both did a great job. Talk about how you got involved in this. What made you come on board?
I was so interested by what you just said that I'm distracted from the question because your friends who are bored but keep it on the down low?
Absolutely.
Yeah, meaning that they have sort of semi-open relationships? Or they...
Yeah, all of them do.
Wow.
Yeah. So this wasn't anything new to me. What was new to me out of all the thousands of movies that I've seen throughout the years, this is the first time that I've seen this.
The first time you've seen this
on its screen.
Maybe without judgment.
Yes.
Seen it depicted without judgment. I think that is unusual because there are obviously a lot of movies that involve infidelity, but usually there are cataclysmic consequences and some huge cathartic moment.
And that's why, for me, it's not about the sex, it's about that story. Because...
But to you, it feels recognizable and
it's normal to me.
Human and normal, yeah. Everybody has to sort of figure out how to negotiate keeping themselves alive, creatively, emotionally, and stay somehow true to the one that they have committed to, if they are in a committed relationship, and that's not an easy equation over time, over a long, long time. So.
That's why I liked the performances. I said it was, for me, it was spot on.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I saw you fold laundry one more time, though, you know, in the movie, I was like, I could see those big
the mountain of laundry growing and growing.
Yeah. So, what did you guys think about the characters? As I talked to Rose and Stacey, I mean, there's a lot of different layers to these characters in these movies, you know, and complexities, and how was it playing those roles?
I mean, I'm happy to take that first. I loved that this was a character where there could be contradictions, where I didn't have to follow such a linear storyline that I couldn't allow her to be in complete contradiction to herself from one scene to the next, and because that to me is a human being, and so rarely do we get the luxury of essentially being in a character study, in a portrait of a person, in all her aspects like this, and I loved that about it. She is on a search, and that's what pulls the storyline through. But beyond that, there's a tremendous amount of freedom to let her be various. And I don't know that there are that many things I've ever done that have, sometimes a long arc in a serial, like say Deadwood or something like that, allows you that kind of complexity just because there's so much time to elaborate the character and you're not bound to a really circumscribed character arc that takes you, you have to follow this trajectory or else the story won't make sense. So therefore you have to play this dark note in this scene so that you can, those requirements were off a lot in this. And I liked that about the experience a great deal.
I love what you just said, because that's so, I mean, in my experience as an actress, that has always been the most, those are the most exciting opportunities where from scene to scene you get to be sort of reveal a radically different aspect of character, and that's definitely the kind of role Abby was.
Yeah.
Not Sam, not so much. I mean, I'm off to the side, but what I loved about the characters relates a little bit to what you're saying, which is sort of like, I think of everybody in the film, in some ways she's the one who breathes the easiest. She's really comfortable in her skin, and she's, unlike Abby, I think she's found a way to make room for herself within the marriage and within the community that she lives, and I think she and her husband have an agreement, and and I think that I think the movie is in a lot of ways really about marriage and how there's this convention that people live inside of, but it can be very, very rigid and people start to crack. And I think the thing that I loved about Sam is that she's not cracking. She's got this kind of like fluidity about her, both within her own sexuality, but I think mostly just within her life and within her marriage. And I think that the presence of somebody like that in a film like this, with somebody who's starting to fracture, like so loudly is really interesting.
Yeah. And what that character uniquely does for this character, I've said this in a couple of Q&As, but she can take her in hand. And I think it's something she may not have even recognized that she needed. Someone to whom she can give over is a big deal for her. And it's why she loses her moorings a little bit, because she's needed that so badly. And when it is upon her, literally and figuratively, she can't get away from its effect upon her heart, let alone her body. So,
is there any part in this when you were reading over everything that was just tough to do?
Yeah, the hardest part for me to trust was the stuff that I suppose you'd call Act 1 of the film, the first 30 minutes or so, to trust the that state of being in a life but not of that life really in some way, and shut down so profoundly, and trying to find anywhere where she might have a hook where she can find herself, but not there yet. So just disconnected, dissociated, all of that. I've never had to play or never striven to play a character like that before, and I wondered or questioned whether an audience would be inclined to want to join me there. I think it's an uncomfortable place for people to be in, and it's an uncomfortable place to recognize. I didn't know if it would make people bored. I didn't know, because it is a sort of version of boredom, like what you mentioned at first. People who are bored in their lives. Boredom is a hard entry point. And rage at your children is a really hard moment to meet a character. You know, she's screaming at her kids. And so the hardest part for me was to, I suppose, trust that early stuff, and that people would see enough of themselves in there that they would want to come join for the rest of it.
Well, you both have great backgrounds when it just comes to your body of work. And it's almost like, wow, I forgot about Deadwood. Because you've done so much other stuff. At least I've seen all of your work. Both, that's part of my job, obviously. But it's just good to see all the stuff that you've done, both of you, because it's like you're going to the next level of stuff. I think that's fun. How challenging is that when you're picking up scripts or going and doing theater? You know, what's going to be more exciting for you? What do you guys look for when it comes to that?
Oh, I keep seeing Maggie return to the stage, and it's something I love to do too when I can. And I think that's key if you can work it out, because only in that arena do you really have that experience of in real time, from the beginning of the evening to the end of the evening, carrying a character through. You know, there's so much artfulness about film and TV and the editing, and it's all done in these snippets and so on. And I think you need to go back and be reminded.
Yeah, it's the only time. I mean, stage is really the only place where, as an actor, you have not full control, but you really are running the show, driving the ship from beginning to end. And you know, in film and television, you give this performance, you give that performance, you try this, you try that. I feel like it's your responsibility to try. I mean, I feel like it's my responsibility to try to do different things in different takes, and then it's out of my hands, and somebody else creates my performance. And you know, to be responsible for a performance from beginning to end, where you are modulating it entirely, you are building it entirely, gives you a window into fundamentally like what your job is.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of creating character, and you know, more than anything else.
Yeah, and it's continues to be strange to me in the world of television that you often don't know where your journey is headed. And sometimes it's thought, you don't in real life, so isn't that good for you to not know where you're going? But sometimes I find in TV that I'm doing what Maggie says, you know, giving this take and that take, because I want to have the option that if they're headed there, they have that, and if they happen to be headed there, then they have that. I'm trying to second guess the entire story because no one will share it with me, and you know, it's It's odd, right? There's almost a whole different understanding of culture in the world of television.
It's odd, and then you're like, you do one that you really like, and you go up to them and you're like, can you put a star on that? Can you make
Exactly,
can you make sure they know that's the one that I want? You start being a bully about it.
You're like, I was brilliant in that.
So
I don't know about that, but you have your opinions.
yeah, you can feel when whatever it was quote really happening.
Yeah.
And you can feel when you were just a step to the left or the right of the real event actually happening. And sometimes someone watching can't see it. So.
Was there any reservations for you playing a lesbian character in a movie?
There probably should have been. I would imagine that maybe I should have had more reservations than I did. I don't think, it's my assessment of the world right now that it's not such a thing. So many actors I love and respect have played gay characters, and I don't think there's any negative. I only see positive consequences of it. I mean, I think it's part of the human family, and I think that's been achieved. That at least has been achieved. These are stories people want to see, that they're recognizable to people, that everyone is grappling with passions they don't know, that don't fit in the box, and are trying to, sort of everyone's a little bit queer, whatever the expression might be, everybody's trying to figure themselves out, and these kind of mirrors are useful to people, and I just don't see the downside to it. I don't see Hollywood as a place where it's like, stigmatized, and I only see people celebrated for it. So I didn't have that fear.
But isn't that the fun thing about acting?
Yeah.
Because that's how I just look at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's acting. It's a new challenge. I couldn't act to save my life, so that's why I appreciate things like that. And I've always looked at Alec Baldwin as a great example. You've got to go and do stage if you want to be taken seriously. And I agree with that theory, because that's how I'm looking at your characters. This is their new stage for the time being, until I really see them on stage again. And I like that. And I definitely love the job that Stacey did with everything, so my hat's off to you on this film. It was good.
Thank you. I'm most glad that you found it so relatable, because one of the things that I think could be really cool for this movie and about this movie is that I don't think it's limited to gay women in terms of being relatable. I don't think it's limited to homosexual couples in terms of being relatable. I think it's relatable to anybody who's trying to negotiate the complicated territory of commitment and self. And I hope it reaches a very broad audience.
Well, I was looking at it through both your eyes,
Yeah.
pretending I was you. I'm 98% sure I'm never getting married, and I don't have kids, and I'm over 50, and I'm very happy with that. So that just redefined what I've known for years. So that's
Informed you in your choices. You're
Absolutely.
like, well, good, I'm not going down that road.
No, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work,
Yeah.
and I can't commit like that,
Relationships are complicated.
Yes.
So
Maybe all the ink that's been spilled on all of this should just be that one sentence. It's like, relationships are complicated. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.